Hello, my name is Dave Lawlor. I'm the Executive Vice President and Treasurer at the Samuel Merritt University. We've worked with Firstsource now for going on 3 years. We started doing product marketing with them. We hadn't done very much marketing as an institution before, and as I came in and we have ambitious growth plans, this was a function that it was really important that we stand up. We didn't have the capability in-house. We didn't want to make those investments. And Firstsource has some strong capability in this area and access to partners that have also been invaluable. So we went from no marketing capability to a fairly robust advertising and marketing capability today. We've had several really strong players that have guided us on this journey, people that have been in and around multi-industry and understand the channels and the opportunities that are available. And it's been a great journey. We've also dabbled in other functions. Some we've had great success in, others we're learning and continuing to evolve. And one of the things I appreciate about Firstsource is the ability to work in sincere partnership. We are learning from one another. We're true partners in the endeavor and open to changes, open to inputs, fantastic customer support. And it's been a joy to work with Tej in particular and the many on his team that he's introduced us to over the last going on 3 years. I think Firstsource has been very successful in its own right as an institution for several years now. We were attracted to Firstsource because, like us, they were entrepreneurial in spirit, very careful listeners. The conversation was fluid, and it wasn't always the customer is right. There were alternative points of view. There were other experts that were brought in. It really helped me as an executive at the institution think through the strategy and the future direction paths that we might want to try. Firstsource on many occasions will willing to say, listen, we will take on the cost of this experiment, and let's prove it to ourselves and to you that it will work, and that's a great model. It gave us freedom to try new things, and then when we latched onto things that were particularly well done, then the investments flowed. It was a natural thing to have happen. I think in pockets there's some seasoned capabilities with some key players, and I think that's a distinctive. You don't always get that depth of capability in other. They've also been honest in areas where they don't have capability to say up front, hey, we don't have this particular capability. And I appreciate that, appreciate knowing that it's not a focus area. I think even the CEO has said, there's certain pockets we want to go an inch wide in, but a mile or two deep. I think there's wisdom in that. A lot of the Firstsource competitors, they want to be in every space. And it's very difficult to be a client that spends time educating consultants. You want it to be the other way around, or at least a strong partnership. So I appreciate that. We're West-based in California, and Firstsource has a strong American presence, but a lot of people also in India. But they've operated on kind of a California clock and have been available to us whenever we've needed. We've gone to India multiple times and brought other people in. So the kind of partner that you can grow with, that you can experiment with, you have confidence in, honesty and conversation really sets them apart, and I'm very pleased. AI is in some ways in its infancy. I had a conversation recently with a person that was part of the internet in the late 80s and early 90s, and he was asked a question, where is AI on the timeline relative to where the internet was? His answer was 1991. And so if you remember back in 1991, you could see every page that was publicly available on Prodigy or whatever the other is available. So we're in some ways in our infancy. This week was helpful to have a diversity of perspectives on where we're at. And I thought teeing up the conversations in multiple ways was helpful to start thinking about areas that we need to focus on. They didn't come in with, here's a sales job and here's our team and we're going to give you all the answers. I think they're fairly honest in their learning as well. There's things that we all know, there's things that we don't know. Problem definition then becomes very important. If you're going to solve something, it's got to start with, have we solved the problem correctly? And I liked the futurist beginning, the vision for where BPOs are going. The whole trademark of Un-BPO was, I think, a sharp acknowledgement that the world in the future is going to be different. There were, I think, 10 guiding principles behind that made a lot of sense to me. I appreciated that. I want to lean into that as kind of a partnership. And so it started questions around, who are my other partners? So enterprise apps are an important part of it. Workday, Salesforce, we use both of them. They're thinking about AI as well and how their product is going to evolve. But there's certain things that are going to be in their knitting, and there's certain things that they're not going to do by design. And so one of the questions I have is, how do we partner with the incumbent enterprise apps, but where would Firstsource be in that ecosystem as we think through it together? And then internal to the institution, there's several things that we're grappling with as well and trying to develop strategy on. So we don't know what the right answers are in certain things either. So this week was thought-provoking. I thought the team did a world-class job of not only the sequencing, the speakers, the fireside chats were provocative. I think the diversity of discussion and commentary and questions was helpful. I made lots of notes as I went through it. So it's a good starting point. As I look to next year, and I'm glad that there's a multi-year commitment to this, I'm curious what that will evolve into. We're, in 12 months, it's put it in dog years or in computer, you're 120 years later, 12 months from now. So how will it evolve? Which of those questions will we have answered for ourselves? Who are other players that we need to bring into the conversation that have genuine knowledge and insight? There's a lot of players today that, AI is kind of the topic of the day, right? But you've got to be able to separate, the strength from the weakness, the vaporware from the credibility. And as a client, that's really important to me. I'd rather hear we don't know yet, and here's what we do know, than I'm going to sell you whatever it is we have to sell, right? Because that's not good for the long term on either side. So it's going to be very interesting to see how it evolves on multiple dimensions. One of the things that really stood out is the vision for Firstsource to become Un-BPO. There's a stigma in certain circles around BPOs and that they've served their time. The 10 principles of what constitutes a non-BPO is helpful to hear as a client because I can lean into those things. There's value that's inherent in each of those 10 items. It's how we think ourselves. It's where we want to make investments. And there's an evolution there that I think is important as we transform the institution at SMU. In terms of navigating the AI space right now, it's a very wide umbrella. And in many ways, it's AI Gen 1. And Gen 2 definition and all the way through kind of dynamic and self-learning and so forth. It's going to be a journey that we're going to learn a lot on together. I think the breadth of coverage and partnerships and clients and other problems in adjacent industries, and some in education as well, that Firstsource is actively involved in today, gives us access to many other thought partners. And I think Firstsource can be a conduit to bringing those conversations together. The networking here was exceptional. I met some excellent people. I'm not a networker. I don't like conferences, generally speaking. I'm not a network guy, but there were some really high caliber people here today that you could tell. They don't do the boondoggle, 5 conferences a year. They were very thoughtful. They're people that can have an impact and create results in their organization. It was great to spend time with those folks. And you could tell their humility, their intellect, it was really value added. It was also a fairly small group. And I like that about this week, that selective in CXOs, I think the quality of the people and their track record was impressive. Really honored to be a part of that invite list, and I hope I get an invite back next year to continue the discussion. But I just love the fact that we're on this journey together, and to have that honest starting point kind of breaks down some of the walls. So then we can say, okay, we're in together. What are your biggest challenges? How are you thinking about it? What are some of the obstacles along the way? What are you going to do internal? Where do you need a partner? Are we the right partner in certain areas? And for sure, there will be pockets where it is the right partner and understanding that. And there'll be other areas where it's not the right partnership for whatever reason, skill set, your focus, our focus, et cetera. But that's part and parcel of embracing AI. There are things that AI will do exceptionally well, and there are things that you would be unwise to adopt AI for. It's just not the right tool. And so to have that philosophy in play in general, I think makes for a really good partnership going forward.